Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today is a very special day for me because I finally get back out on the water. If you guys have been following me, you know that my daughter unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer about a month ago. She's doing awesome, by the way. Quick update. She got her first round of chemo and she did phenomenal with it. She honestly, you wouldn't even know that she had chemo, so really happy about that. But obviously, since we found out, haven't been on the water, hasn't really been important to us at all. Family first, but to maintain my sanity, I have to get out on the water. And so since she's doing so good, I'm able to get out here on a small reservoir here in Arkansas, and my good friend Mark Rose is letting me keep my boat in his garage, which is something I'm very thankful for. So we're gonna get to go out fishing here, and we're on this lake that has a ton of hardwood cover in it in a lot of different forms. You got brush piles, you got standing timber, you've got flooded trees on the shoreline, you've got laydowns, all different types of wood cover. And there's 5 different baits that I really like to throw for fishing wood. These are the 5 baits that I reach for first. So we're gonna pull them out of the rod locker and we're gonna get started and hopefully catch some fish. I think we're gonna have a good day. All right, guys, so before we get started catching some fish, let's go through the tackle that we're going to use. So these are 5 different techniques that I really think of first when I'm on a lake like this that has a lot of wood. So it's kind of split into 2 different categories. You've got reaction baits, you know, baits that I can cover water fast with, and you know, find the right areas. And then you've got some baits that are made for going a little bit slower. So let's start with the reaction or search baits. The first one, and these aren't in any particular order, the first one is going to be a shallow diving crankbait. Now, picking the right shallow diving crankbait is really important. This one right here is the Strike King Hybrid Hunter. This is the smaller version. I think it's called the Junior. This is actually a bait that I haven't thrown that much, but it was one of my New Year's resolutions that I was going to learn the Hybrid Hunter. And one thing that I do know about this bait is that it is super buoyant, and the lip on there, that very unique lip design, actually will come through cover very well. It's designed for grass, but it works really good around wood from the research that I've done. But the one thing it has is buoyancy. And when you're choosing a shallow diving crankbait, which I would say, you know, a square bill is probably standard, it's really important to have a crankbait that has a lot of buoyancy. That's why, like, if you're fishing shallow wood, you see a lot of people throwing balsa, you know, because wood crankbaits tend to be a little bit more buoyant than some plastic ones, but that's not always the case. But shallow diving crankbait is going to be really important. Today I'm fishing the Hybrid Hunter on a 7.3 medium heavy Versa series rod from Fitzgerald, and I'm using 17-pound test Seagar Tatsu for this technique. Now, I really like heavier line for fishing around wood. You know, I'm really not trying to get very deep when I'm fishing shallow wood, so you know, heavy line is pretty important. And I've got this one on a 6.5 gear ratio reel, which is pretty much my favorite for my crankbaits. But crankbait is the first one. The next one is probably my overall favorite for fishing wood when I'm trying to cover water, and that is a spinnerbait. This is the Z-Man Sling Blades. I'm using a white and chartreuse in the 3/8 ounce version, and I've got that Hayabusa trailer hook system on the back. Now, if I'm fishing really dense wood, sometimes the trailer hook on the back is optional, but for most of my spinnerbait fishing, I like using a trailer hook because I like to catch those 1 or 2 fish per day that otherwise miss the you know, the main hook on a spinnerbait. I'm using a Colorado lead blade today and a willow leaf blade on the back. And the reason for that is I want a little bit more vibration because it's dirtier water, and I also want a little bit slower presentation, so a little bit more drag, and that's why I like this combination right now, because the water temp is, let me actually check, that's actually a pretty important factor. Water temp is 56.8 is the water temp. All right, so that's actually the perfect temperature for throwing this blade combination, in my opinion. So the spinnerbait, very weedless. You can cover a lot of water with it. And what I'm going to be using as far as tackle with it is another 7.3 medium heavy Versa series rod, 17 or 20 pound test fluorocarbon. I think this one is 20 pound red label fluorocarbon from Seagar. And then usually I'm fishing a 6.5 to 1 gear ratio for my spinning or for my spinner baits, but I've got a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio here. It'll work just fine. I just might need to slow myself down a little bit. So that is the spinner bait. Moving right along, the next reaction bait is a swim jig. This is a really, really good choice if the wood is very shallow and the fish are, you know, in 1 or 2 foot of water and you're really in thick stuff, because the swim jig will come through like no other reaction bait will. And so a swim jig is definitely one of my absolute favorites for covering a lot of water really fast, because I don't have to slow down and go backwards to unsnag. So swim jig is really good. This one right here is the snakehead swim jig from Z-Man, and I trimmed down the turbo fatties for the trailer, and this is a really good combination right here. The turbo fatties has a really good swimming action, and same thing, pretty much the same gear I have the spinnerbait on, 7.3 medium heavy Versa, 20 pound red label, and a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio casting reel. All right, let's breeze through these other ones. The next bait is a slow moving bait, but can also be used as a fast moving bait because it is a jig. A jig is very versatile. You know, the swim jig I just showed you, pretty much designed for swimming, but this one right here is an Arky style head. This is the cross-eyes flipping jig from Z-Man, and I've got the Helicross on the back as the trailer. You know, fish, when in doubt, fish an Arky style jig, because an Arky style jig, you can flip it, pitch it, fish it slow on the bottom, or you can swim it back to the boat. You're probably going to see me today fish this quite a bit in a lot of different ways. So this is actually not just a what I call a soaking bait, you know, a bait that I can fish real slow, but it's also a bait that I can fish extremely fast. So we're going to be doing that today. I have this on a 7.3 heavy action rod. Usually I fish this on a 7.6 heavy action all-purpose series rod, but today, because it's not super dense cover, so I'm not going to be doing traditional flipping and pitching as much as just pitching and reeling. This is a 7.3 heavy. I feel like it's a little bit more nimble and easier to use for, you know, swimming this jig when I want to do that. 22 pound Seagar Tatsu is the line of choice for this, and I have it on an 8.1 to 1 gear ratio reel. The final one is a new addition to my wood arsenal, and that is a Ozark rig. This is something that's new from Core Tackle. The Ozark rig is essentially revolves around this jig head that has this weight that's dispersed on the shank of the hook, and you can Texas rig that bait to make it completely weedless. And what this does, and the reason why I use a jig, a flipping jig like an Arky style jig for wood instead of a Texas rig, is because a Texas rig tends to fall straight down, vertical, and doesn't really have a lot of glide to it. But a jig tends to have a more seductive fall, and in wood, you know, it comes through the wood a lot better than it would if you're talking about vegetation. However, I do love the look of traditional soft plastics. So when Core Tackle came out with the Ozark rig, I was really intrigued, and it allowed me to fish the baits that I like to throw on a traditional Texas rig, but in a way where they have a very distinct glide to it. And this has the most dramatic glide of anything out there since that bait called the flying lure, that as seen on TV bait, and that caught fish. And this catches a lot of fish too. So this is a really good one as a follow-up bait. It's even slower moving than the jig. And today I've got a Z-Man Gremlin on it. So we're gonna try that out. I've got it on 15 pound test, Seagar Tatsu, a 7.3 medium heavy versus or all-purpose series rod, and an 8.1 to 1 gear ratio reel. Let's get started. Let's go fishing. I'm jonesing to catch some fish. Let's go. There he is. On the jig. On the jig. Oh my gosh. You guys have no idea how happy I am right now. The black and blue jig with that Hellcross. There we go. Fish number one. That one was just on a little bit of kind of some willow branches going into the water. Not a giant, but a beautiful fish. I switched to the black and blue jig. I'm gonna put him back. I switched to the black and blue jig because I really feel like, you know, these fish, it's just still a little bit too early for too much reaction baits. Now, if you get in the right area, and there's a lot of fish, you can catch them on reaction baits for sure. But this black and blue jig, like I said before, you can fish it slow, you can fish it fast, and I haven't seen any shad activity over here at all. So, you know, I was losing a little bit of faith in like the spinnerbait and the swim jig. So we're gonna stick with the black and blue jig for right now. But, you know, even though these are my 5 favorite techniques for wood, that doesn't mean that they're all gonna work at any one time. You know, each of them has their time in the limelight when it comes to, you know, fishing wood. Just all depends on the time of year and all that. But black and blue jig, when the water is, you know, in the mid 50s, kind of hard to beat, guys. Oh, just had one hit the spinnerbait. I saw it, it wasn't a big one. Might have even been a crappie. Now we're moving out towards the point, and a lot of times, you know, this time of year, if you find wood on a point leading into a spawning area, that's kind of one of the keys, because this is the deepest water access. But because it's sunny today, this, oh, see right there, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? Did I just call my shot? I just called that one. I'll take credit for that. Look at that. Guys, you that say that you don't use trailer hooks, I would not have caught that fish if it wasn't for that Hayabusa trailer hook on that spinnerbait. Not a big one, but that is a fun bite. And like I said, that is this wood right here, right outside of the spawning area. So you've got this wood pile right here, and this is where those pre-spawn fish are going to be. And then once it heats up into the low 60s, they're going to end up being back there. There you go. Good fish. Good fish. On the Ozark rig. Look at that. Nice chunky 3-pounder. And on the Gremlin from Z-Man, check that thing out. Again, we got terrible light. We got terrible light, people. Let's turn this around. I just love showing you guys how pretty these bass are. Look at that fish right there. And like I said, the Ozark rig is another really good one paired with the jig for really slowing down and catching those fish on isolated cover like this. So awesome, awesome fish. I'm gonna take a picture real quick, send to the wife, put him back. Thank you, fish. Sweet, that was fun. All right, everybody, that does it for today's video. Those are my 5 favorite baits to fish around wood cover. And again, wood could be anything from stumps to standing timber to laydowns to brush piles. All that different type of stuff is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about wood. And as you saw in this video, I only caught fish on 3 of the different baits: a spinnerbait, the Arky style flipping jig, and also the Ozark rig. And even though I only caught fish on those 3 baits, that doesn't mean that the crankbait and the swim jig aren't also excellent. It's just dependent on the lake that you're fishing, the type of cover you're fishing, and also the time of year. The swim jig generally tends to work a little bit better towards the spawn, a little bit closer to the spawn, and the crankbait, I like to fish around stumps primarily. And here we're just fishing laydowns, isolated, a little bit of standing timber and that sort of stuff. So anyways, guys, hopefully this video will help you catch more fish around wood cover. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Also, if you're interested in any of the products that I talked about today, I'm going to put links in the description below. And if you use those links to buy these products, it's a great way to support the channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Trust the process.